Hi everyone, welcome to Ethernal Realms and welcome to the month ahead astrology reading. Make sure you check your sun, moon, and rising signs for a comprehensive view of the month. Additionally, I would recommend watching the tarot reading of the month ahead to get a different perspective. While you will know the astrology in advance through this session, I will also send you a reminder when the astrological events are near. All you have to do is subscribe, hit the bell, and you will be notified as the events occur through my community page. I occasionally post behind the scenes, meditation guidance, quizzes, and polls, which you can check out for yourself. And it goes without saying that you will be notified when new videos are out, such as other zodiac readings and pick a card tarot readings as well. If you prefer to cut down the guesswork about your month ahead, you can always connect with me via Etsy to get a personalized week-by-week month ahead tarot reading paired with the general astrology. Enough about me, let's talk about you. So let's talk the overview of September. Okay, I'm going to divide this into separate storylines. There are a couple of things happening in parallel, and at some points in time, different things are being activated. So just the general themes going on here. Let's talk about the first one. Is that in the month of September, there are going to be lots of changes on the personal level. And that's because we have Mercury and Venus changing direction. Both of them are going to go direct. And whenever that happens, on especially the personal planets of, the Venus, Mercury, even Mars, we experience lots of shifts in our own mindset and how we go about life. Okay, so on a personal level, lots of changes. But apart from that, we also have Jupiter going retrograde on the same day that Venus goes direct. And that's interesting because it's sort of like both of them are moving in parallel, but they're moving in opposite directions. So they kind of see each other, but they can't really meet at this point. So when Jupiter was active, Venus was not, and now Venus is active, so Jupiter is not. And that's going to be an interesting dynamic to see. But apart from that, we also have Saturn in retrograde, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto in retrograde. So everything is retrograde for like the first few days of the month, and then slowly one by one things start going direct. That is Mercury and Venus. So whenever the bigger planets are retrograde, they're retrograde for a longer time compared to Mercury, let's say. So whatever changes occur on that level, we are more susceptible to absorbing because we don't quite understand it, or it's not yet conscious and it's kind of happening in the background, or this is like involuntary changes that we were not initiating but is introduced through the universe. Okay, so it's sort of a time where the universe is speaking louder than we are able to speak. Okay, so there will be less resistance as a result of this. That's the plus side. We are able to accept the guidance and the intuitive nudges much more easily. And because Mercury, Venus are direct, we are able to kind of incorporate that in a personal level. For example, if you feel like your belief system is not doing you any favors, or that the structures you have in your life are not working in your favor, then there is this opportunity to shift those things. But that initial feeling is going to be the universe speaking. That's the trigger that comes from your soul, from your subconscious, whatever. So yes, there will be changes in beliefs, priorities, and mindsets with Jupiter, Venus, and Mercury changing directions. The next story that's happening is that our focus this month is shifting when the sun is moving from Virgo season into Libra season. So when the sun is in Virgo, there's also a lot of earth activities, earth trines, conjunctions, movements, and so on, right? So there's a lot of earthly matters which are going to happen, and it's going to be a dynamic phase because, again, Mercury is in an earth sign in Virgo, and it changes direction, which changes, again, the flow of things. When the sun moves into Libra, we're going to talk more about relationships and communication, what commitment means or partnership means, and how to find equality and balance and all of that. And this is going to be a more rejuvenating phase because Venus is out of shadow by the time, or at least, it is really, really getting out of shadow almost. So it's going to be, whenever a planet comes out of retrograde phase, basically it is essentially rested and rejuvenated. So it's kind of gaining power through the post-shadow phase, and then it's going to fully glow in its eminence, basically, right? So in Libra season, Venus, the ruler of Libra, is going to come into full strength. So this is going to be rewarding, rejuvenating, not only for relationships, but also financial matters. Another theme to talk about is that there are 6 trines this month. All of them are Earth, which is awesome, which means we have physical blessings, material blessings. And we have 1 conjunction, also Earth, which means there is some emphasis days, which we'll talk about when we get into it. We do have 2 squares, and both of them have Venus involved in it. Okay, so the first one is going to be a direct Venus squaring with Jupiter, who's retrograde. And this is going to be an interesting one because, like I mentioned, going parallel but in opposite direction. And there can be this ideology that we adopt around this time that maybe we and our goals are not able to meet, or our value system, our belief system, they are not able to meet. Okay, so if we move with that assumption, it's not going to do us any favors. It can just seem like we're doing a lot of things but we're going nowhere. That's what it can seem like. But that does not have to be that way. Okay, now keep in mind, Venus in this square is going to be in shadow phase, and that is again indicating that Venus is not yet in full power, so it can't really help Jupiter with much, or it can't really do anything. It can't share the experience as such. It's just going about in its own lane. And Jupiter is in retrograde, so it's kind of in that asleep state, so it's not able to exert itself fully around this time either. So with that, if you mix in the square, the illusion or the assumption that we don't have power, or that we still have a lot of other things to be taken care of before we start moving towards our goals, that can be quite strong. But the plus side is, if we remove that assumption, that initial thing, and just go with things with an open mind, an open heart, and just give it a shot, it's not going to be this way. It is actually quite blissful. It can help you recognize what you're really looking for in life and all of that. We'll get into the actual effects more as I talk about your zodiac. Next, the other square is also with Venus direct, but this square, she's out of shadow. Okay, she's going to square with Uranus. And what's interesting is Uranus is going to be retrograde, right? So all this month of August and even July, Venus was squaring with Uranus. In the first phase, she was going into shadow, so she was losing strength. So Uranus was kind of winning this square, let's say. In the second month, in August, Venus was fully in retrograde, so she was not in the mood to contest with Uranus's whims and fancies. Okay, so again, Uranus wins that. This would be the first time where Venus is stronger and Uranus is kind of like, okay, well, I've made whatever I needed to make as a change, and what do you have to say? And what's even more interesting is that Venus also rules Taurus, where Uranus is sitting. So she can really dictate how we're going to take advantage of the changes that have already happened, the breakthroughs we have made, the realizations that have occurred in the months of July and September. Venus is now going to put that into context, put a more pleasant spin to it. Like, it doesn't have to be so drastic. We can, take it one step at a time and make the best of it. So all in all, it seems a little optimistic. And we also have an opposition. That's the only opposition. So one opposition, one conjunction. In opposition, we have Virgo again being involved, but here we're going to learn to balance the emotion side of it. So it's nice that we don't have a completely practical and logical month, which generally happens when we have so much Virgo and Libra presence, but we also have a little bit of emotion mixed in there, so we're able to kind of come back to center. Okay, fourth storyline, let's talk about the moon phases. We have a new moon in Virgo along with Mercury going direct. That's going to be on the 15th. And we also have a full moon in Libra on the 29th. And this is going to be the date that Venus squares with Uranus. So both days we have some important events occurring. So these lunar phases are not going to be boring, to say the least. We'll talk about it a lot more when we get into your zodiac. But in essence, new moons talk about new potentials and new beginnings. Meanwhile, full moons talk about completion of a cycle or pivoting into a new direction. Quite fateful. There can be external help and triggers that kind of show us and point where we should be headed next, basically. Now, the fifth storyline is that eclipse is coming about very soon. So September is sort of a drum roll phase. And at first, we might not feel it too much because we're kind of busy with the whole slumber of all the planets being retro. Then on the 4th, Venus goes direct and so on and so forth. So slowly we start waking up and getting into the mode of realizing the fateful changes that the eclipses are going to bring. Because those fated changes, they are, again, universally directed. And because so many of these outer planets are retrograde, we are, like I mentioned, we don't have that much resistance. We're more accepting of what's coming in. So this is going to be an interesting eclipse season in October, and we're starting to see what it could be about. Okay? All right, let's start with your specific reading. So Gemini, let's first talk about the planets changing direction, because that's a big thing in this month. We have Jupiter turning retrograde in the sign of Taurus, and that's in your 12th house of sleep, hypnosis, what is working behind the scenes, the unconscious, your connection with spirit, surrendering, letting go of distractions, and connecting with the collective form of love. And we also have Venus turning direct, and Venus is in Leo. That falls in your 3rd house of communication, your location, locality, mindset, short distance travels, and some plans, organization, documentation, and all of that. Okay, so both of these things are happening on the same day, on the 4th. So as Venus is going direct, Jupiter is going retrograde. That's an interesting one because both of them are benefics and both of them are in fixed signs and therefore are going to create long-lasting changes. In the case of Venus, the changes that have already occurred or the things you have thought about and revisited and so on while it was retrograde in August and even July, you are going to incorporate these changes into your everyday life. For example, making your surroundings more beautiful, in implementing certain beauty regimens or mentality shifts, mindset shifts, speaking with others more compassionately, speaking with yourself more compassionately. Whatever form of expression you have, you're doing so creatively and passionately beyond this date. But now, Jupiter, although is a benefic, it is also a far-off planet, and it talks about our belief systems, okay? So where is it? What belief systems do we hold that downgrade our worth or creates a resistance or stagnancy in ongoing, situations which we are hoping will lead to flourish and prosperity and all of that, right? So what exactly leads to some form of procrastination, or what stops you from focusing and concentrating on certain desires that are very strong within you? So where do we self-sabotage? Where do we hold ourselves back? These are the questions that are going to come out around this time. And the more you tune into your intuition, the better you're able to harness the Jupiter qualities. Okay, now another planet changing direction is Mercury. It is retrograde for the first half of the month, and on the 15th it is going to turn direct, which indicates that our mind is really sharp and Mercury is your ruler, so you're definitely quite impacted whenever it is going retrograde. It is a very nice time to declutter your space and think a little bit differently, revisit old projects and so on and so forth. So now when it is turning direct, it's as though you've done your research. There can be perhaps certain things you've shifted around the house, some renovation you might have done, or you have some new ideas which can improve your stability and security in general. Perhaps the way you organize your home or some organization systems you might have developed. This is the time that you can start implementing those things, or you will start seeing external results from the things that you have implemented. Now, Mercury is in Virgo, right? And Virgo is also ruled by Mercury, so it's kind of pretty strong around this time, right? Whether it is direct or retrograde. So that falling in your 4th house of home and family, there can be connecting with people who you've lost touch with in the first half of the month. And, you kind of see them in a different light, or you have different types of conversation with people you generally associate with. And that just shows you a different side to this personality. This is likely going to be a family member or people that you consider family. So when Mercury moves direct here, this can be about kind of taking inspiration or taking the ideas that you have harnessed from your conversations with in the past, I mean like 3-4 weeks ago, and implementing those things in your everyday life. For example, someone in your family could be very organized and keeping everything quite neat and well managed and everything. You might see them and think that, wow, they really get a lot of stuff done very properly on time. I wonder how that is. So when you have a conversation with them, you understand what their trick is, how they think and how they perceive their own life, what their lifestyle is, and so on. So then you start to implement those things into your life 15th onwards, and that really starts a new way of being and moving around. Okay, now let's talk about the aspects of the month. There's a lot going on with Earth houses, and I will point out 2 houses which are being heavily emphasized throughout the month. These are the Virgo house and the Taurus house. So that would be your 4th house and your 12th house. Now, both of these houses are quite internal, and you're likely to feel these benefits more on the inside. And then that, of course, can be realized on the external world as you see fit. But it first is going to originate internally. For example, you feel good, you feel vital, and you feel like you can do it, whatever it is that you want, right? So you can actually make things happen. That's kind of the point here. So you are likely to just go head on into projects here regarding your home, organization of space, security, stability, figuring out new ways of moving, lifestyle, fitness goals, and all of that, right? Now, Taurus, again, we talked about this, self-sabotaging beliefs, or where is there leaky energy? We're going to fix those things as well. So the first aspect happening is Mercury in Virgo, your 4th house, trining with Jupiter in Taurus, and Jupiter is retrograde, and that falls in your 12th house. So this is happening on the 4th. There is another Mercury trine Jupiter in the same zodiacs that's happening towards the end of the month on the 25th. There are 2, even though they are the same aspect, and you might think that they kind of show the same symbolism, it's actually quite different, because in the first instance, the one on the 4th, Mercury is retrograde. Okay, and Jupiter just about turns retrograde. So we're not yet fully able to consciously realize these feelings or shifts and changes that are happening on the inner level. We still feel the benefits. Of course, it's not like unpleasant or something. It's a trine, it's a harmonious relationship, but we might not be able to fully understand what needs to be done about this. Okay. Meanwhile, in the second one, we have Mercury, who's direct. Jupiter is retrograde, but it's considerably into the retrograde cycle, so it's more aware of what needs to be done while it is retro. How can we enhance our self-worth? What belief systems need to be changed? There is more of a conscious realization here. Another marker that is distinctly different is that in the first one, on the 4th, we have the Sun in Virgo. So Mercury and Sun are in Virgo. Both of them are in trine relationship with the Taurus house, which indicates that the focus that you have in the first 3 weeks actually of the month is going to be more towards your practical side of life, your organization, management, lifestyle, health, diet, routine, your relationships with your family, conversations with them, research, all of these things. Okay, there's going to be more focus on that. So the kind of the internal epiphanies or inner dialogues that are happening here, they're going to benefit you in that direction. There's just a lot more energy. But in the second one, on the 25th, we have the Sun moving into Libra. So in general, your life focus has moved away from that 4th house topic into the 5th house. So you're looking at how to cultivate more harmony in life, how to cultivate more beauty and joy, entertainment, how to date better, or, how can you reconnect with connections that you've already built. Maybe it's been a long time since you've connected with your partner, so now you're making it a priority to spend some quality one-on-one time and go on some adventures perhaps, or do something that both of you enjoy. Alternatively, it can be about socializing as well. So your focus in general has shifted from, needing to do something or having to do something towards doing something for fun and also connection with others. Okay. Now, Libra is at a beneficial angle to you, to your Gemini house, your first house, right? So this is going to lead you towards personal growth, lots of progress in your personal life. You might feel much better about yourself as well, rising in self-esteem and identification as well. Any dissociations you might have felt or depressive qualities when Mercury was retrograde, you're likely to feel differently around this time. So what happens when the focus is shifting over here is that whatever ideas have been brimming in the background with Mercury retrograde trining with Jupiter retrograde, that is now going to be even more consciously realized, in the sense that you are going to effortlessly implement the changes in your life around the 25th. Okay, so the second time that the trine happens. Okay, now let's talk about this other aspect that Mercury is making. It's going to be a trine with Uranus. Uranus is also in Taurus. That's your 12th house once more. Uranus is retrograde at this time, and this aspect is happening on the 30th, at the very end of the month, yes, but it is also important because Mercury and Uranus are planets of the mind. Mercury is more of the conscious mind of planning and scheduling and all of that. Meanwhile, Uranus is more about the big ideas, inventions, innovations, and what are our ideologies, ideals, okay? How do we connect with humanity and the collective mind and all of that? So because they're in a harmonious relationship, it indicates that you are clearly able to identify what changes have occurred in the past 2 months, and how can you adjust to them, or how can you incorporate those shifts and changes into your everyday life more easily or effortlessly, okay? So like Uranus was direct for quite some time, and it created a lot of changes, and all of these personal planets, Venus and Mercury, were retrograde. So it might have been hard to make sense of those things and really understand what it is trying to create in our life. So it could have been just like experimenting with blindfolds on, for example, right? So on the 30th, it is more so about, oh yeah, I get it. I get what that was all about. It's more of an understanding, acceptance, and incorporation of those things. All right. Now let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about the sun trines. Once again, these are all connected with the Virgo and the Taurus houses, right? Okay, the sun trines with Jupiter. Sun is in Virgo and Jupiter is in Taurus at this time. This is on the 8th. Then the next one is a sun trine Uranus. That's on the 16th. So both of these planets, wherever the sun goes, there is clarity. And when clarity meets harmoniously with these outer planets who are retrograde, it indicates that we are consciously able to recognize what changes are likely going to happen in the Jupiter and Uranus retrograde cycles. For example, you might have this sudden realization, or just a conscious realization, which says, yeah, I do hold myself back like this. I take on too much, and then I'm not able to commit, and then I freak out, and then we go back to square one. Okay, so there can be this realization of, yes, this is what I do, this is what happens, these are the circumstances, these are the other external influences that I don't have any control of, or at least I feel like I don't have control of, right? So what can be done about those things? Now, this retro cycle is then going to be about figuring these things out. Because this is a trine aspect, you're going to feel liberated or really relieved that you know the answer. It's not about, I don't know what it is. I don't know. It's a mysterious force that just does not allow me to go ahead, or it's always pushing back. It's not going to feel like that. Okay? So you can really look into microscopically at what belief systems hold you back. This can even be talking about collaborating with people who are from foreign lands, who come from different cultures, and they can really shift your mindset, like that you would not think of this perspective. So I would recommend talking to people who are very far out of your culture or your background, because they see the world through a completely different lens, right? But because it's your 12th house, you're not consciously associated with it, but you can totally relate and vibe with them. Okay, interacting with your intuition, your soul, the divine self, universe, all of these things, the spiritual side of things, is as well going to be highly beneficial around this time. Okay, we also have a conjunction between the Sun and Mercury retrograde in the sign of Virgo. That's on the 6th. And whenever the Sun conjoins with something, again, it's like an emphasis point. And because Mercury is retrograde, it indicates that before this point, the mind is foggy and we're like, I just can't figure out the perfect solution. I just don't know. Okay, or I don't know how to fix this. Okay, it's all too messy. I don't know what to change here, or if I change, I don't know if I can maintain it. Or is this sustainable? Is it even stable? Because I don't need another thing to add to my plate. There can be that, feeling. But when Sun meets Mercury retro, it reinvigorates the mind. We don't feel as groggy beyond this point, and we start getting some ideas, and we're like, okay, so if I slowly implement these things into my everyday life, it's going to be okay. I can do this, but I still have to do some stuff, but I think I got this. Okay, that's the vibe beyond this point. Another thing, this is a different trine, but it is still an earth trine. By the way, when we have so many earth trines, we talk about material and physical effects. So whatever these blessings are, you will get some material results out of it. You can do so. But again, it's in your hidden houses, so you might have to take the initiative to make it so. If you're satisfied with the internal self feeling good, then, good, that's nice. But I'm just saying that there is the potential to externalize it as well. All right. On the 21st, we have the sun trining with Pluto. Pluto is as well retrograde, and the sun is in Virgo. Pluto is in Capricorn. That is going to hit your 4th house and your 8th houses. Okay, so 8th house is about the transformation, understanding the shadow self, transforming the shadows as well, doing some inner work, inner healing, going to a therapist, getting some realizations of what holds you back and what toxicities surround you in life and all of that. And how can you surpass such things? Now, keep in mind, Capricorn, anything in Capricorn is all about the small little steady steps you can take. It's not about biting a big chunk and then hoping it'll work, because it's not sustainable. With the earth signs, they want to be orderly, structured, and sustainable. Okay? So the best way to work with this energy, you will feel the benefits regardless, okay? You don't have to work on it, but if you are more consciously experiencing this particular day a little bit before after, you will notice that you really get some understanding of how your family conditioning or your family ancestry has created certain circumstances in your general environment while growing up. For example, people who grow up or people who have ancestors who did not have food, they are usually more, either they adapt to the situation and they're not able to gain weight, for example, or they generally have a scarcity mindset with like the basic needs of life. And this is not about blame game, right? We don't have to hate on a particular group or generation in order to get the benefits. We can always look at them objectively. You're an air sign, so I'm sure you understand this, yes? Just look at them objectively and observe what has not worked for them and what has worked for them, and how that affects the family you were raised in and how that affects your subconscious mind. Do you feel as though everything is really hard? However much you do, however much you try, whatever you learn and do and whatnot, there's still something holding you back, and it's always something external, tangible, can possibly be an authority figure and like powerful figure and all of that. Could be this, okay? But because Pluto is retrograde, it asks to take the power into your own hands and that you have to do this particular step. So you must want to have the power in your hands. Some people don't, I'll be honest, right? Some people don't. They are going through their own phase, no judgment here. And they're going through their own phase of understanding what weakness is, what vulnerability is, what it feels to be on the other side of the spectrum and all of that. But it doesn't make, in an objective sense, it doesn't make anybody weaker than the other. Just because you've been in a victim state at some point, it doesn't mean you cannot take power back into your hands. So Pluto retrograde is all about investigating how you can take power back into your own hands. And with the sun lighting this up with a harmonious angle, it's going to be like, come on, we got this, okay? You might find some motivation from your family members, some supporters here, or it can be that your home and living space, your personal life and all of that, it's supporting your ability to kind of climb to the next level. Next, let's talk about the Venus squares. Okay, so Venus is squaring with Jupiter on the 17th. Jupiter is retrograde at this time. And the second square it'll make is going to be with Uranus on the 29th. And Uranus is as well retrograde. Both of them are interesting cases. First square is going to be while the sun is in Virgo. Okay, it's not supporting or not supporting this whole situation. It is in a harmonious angle with Jupiter, but it's not really doing much for the Venus side of things. And Venus is in shadow phase at this time. So because it's a square aspect, even if we have benefic planets here, it can on the surface feel as though we desire one thing and we believe a certain thing. So it's not possible for our desires to meet. Like it's not possible to tangibly realize that. That's how it might feel on the surface. Let's give an example. Let's say you have this desire to be a millionaire, okay? Meanwhile, Jupiter is like, well, your belief system says that money is bad. So then you're in direct conflict, right? Like you want money, but you think it's not good. So then how are you going to bring that into your life? So if we remove the initial assumption of something is bad or good or this or that, right? We remove that influence here and we just look at what's happening, what opportunities are coming up on this particular day, a little bit before and after. Then we can notice how these two things are not really so far separate from each other. Okay, for you, this can be opportunities coming in from your third house section of Leo, of, some conversation you have or some space that you go into, some community you connect with, and it just makes you feel like, yes, this is what I've been looking for. This is the way that I want to express myself. These are the co-workers I want to team up with. This is the place I would like to travel to or live in. Okay, but your belief systems might be like, yeah, but I don't deserve anything nice, so it can't happen. Yeah, that's an assumption we must remove. And we need to not just remove in the sense of stop thinking that or stop believing it, but rather investigate of why do I feel like that? That's just, is there some truth to it? Is that really how I see myself? And why is that? Because like I said, Taurus is in that self-sabotaging house, and Jupiter being the belief systems, that is something that could be holding you back from achieving whatever goals you have for yourself. It can also be on another level. It can be that you believe that your intuition is just your imagination. There's no such thing like that. These are assumptions, right? So we really need to evaluate such things around this time. Venus, though, because it's still in shadow phase, it's not yet fully strong to, be like, no, that's silly talk. We don't need to, focus on all of that. She's not fully empowered here. So there is a chance of faltering a little bit, but don't be harsh on yourself. It's okay. These are still benefics, right? They will eventually always create like good stuff out of this, pleasant stuff and all of that. But on this particular date might feel like you're overshooting or overestimating, and you're like, no, that's too big. That's too much. I can't do all of that. It's something you want, but you might sell yourself short. Okay, that's something to look out for. The second square, Venus is fully active, and it actually leaves the shadow zone on this particular day. And Venus and Uranus have been squaring a little bit loosely, sometimes exact, throughout July and also August. Gets a little bit looser in August, but still it is in that foggy zone. And Uranus, what it's trying to do is wanting to create some type of, independence and breakthroughs, like, come on, lady, be fierce, that kind of vibe, right? Be fierce, be independent, don't depend on anything, and break out of your boundaries. No need to do anything of the norm, right? So it can be overwhelming when Venus was retrograde. But now, on the 29th, when she squares with Uranus, it would be the first time that Uranus is the one who's retrograde, and Venus is not only out of retro, but also out of shadow. So she's fully empowered, and she's like, okay, so what were you saying? You were saying, Uranus, that I need to implement these changes to empower myself and all of that. All right, well, let's make the changes. And whatever changes that have happened in the past here, now Venus goes, how can I integrate these things? I don't know how exactly to fit these changes, but I'm strong enough to figure things out beyond this point. Okay, she's a lot more empowered. She can make more sense of what has happened throughout July and August. Okay, things falling into place, that's the vibe. And also, the sun is in Libra at this time when Venus squares with Uranus, and Venus rules Libra. So the focus we have going on in this month for you, it's that fifth house of joy, creativity, fun, expression, and all of that, inner child, children, etc. That is going to favor the solutions that you find here. Okay, so the radical transformations or changes that have happened, you can better integrate that in your surroundings, in your environment, and you'll be like, yep, okay, that makes sense. Yes, it was like just here, I could almost feel that this would be a solution or this could be a solution, but I didn't know how to figure out the technicalities or, would it make sense? Would it look nice? And does it bring value to me and all of that? But now I get it. Okay, so in general, things coming together. Now, finally, let's talk about the moons. We have a new moon in Virgo the same day that Mercury turns direct in Virgo. Okay, that's on the 15th, middle of the month. And this can talk about some new initiations occurring that are going to benefit your long-term desires and changes. And this new moon is going to trine with Uranus in Taurus in that 12th house. Even though Uranus is retrograde, once again, it's indicating that we are incorporating, absorbing all of the changes. It doesn't feel like, whoa, what is this hailstorm and thunderstorm happening all around me? It feels more like the calm after the storm, rather, right? You're able to put that into action, kind of organize that in your immediate environment. So in general, a little bit more secure than before. Whenever planet changes direction, there will be some breakthrough or epiphany that comes around this date. It's generally a very potent time. If you are someone who manifests, you can work with manifestations regarding your home, family, personal security, stability, lifestyle, organization, and just in general material well-being. And the next moon energy we talk about is the full moon in Aries, and that's on the 29th. It's the same day that Venus squares with Uranus that we just talked about. That's on the 29th. So the sun is in Libra, the moon is in Aries, and that's lighting up your 11th house and your 5th house. So there is a likelihood of, for example, meeting someone through friends who you can connect with, go on a date with, and have a wonderful conversation. There can also be a desire to socialize around this time, and Aries is at a beneficial angle to your personal house, so social media, marketing, humanitarian efforts, and anything connected to your hopes, dreams, and aspirations that you're working towards, that's likely going to lead to some nice opportunities, breakthroughs, or you feel just invigorated, energized to follow through with that. And given that we have Venus square Uranus, which is empowering you, you can feel especially fiery. Now, Venus in Leo is at a trine aspect with this Aries full moon. So there can be, again, this idea you get, a conversation you hear, or a documentary you read that is just like, it's a good idea, and you think you can incorporate that in your life in a different way, perhaps in an innovative way. You are an innovative sign, so you absolutely can. I think that's a very realistic example, honestly. Yes, but you are definitely quite inspired around this time to make some change or complete a project, perhaps. Full moons also have, heightened emotions and intuition, so you can get some messages from your inner self as well. So tune in, because again, we do have so much influence of that retrograde planets in that Taurus house of 12th house of intuition. So you definitely can gather some additional perspectives on what you want in life and what would make you happy. Okay. So that's what I have for you. Thank you for being here. I really hope you enjoyed and that the messages help you out throughout the month. Stay tuned for the tarot reading as well. I will be uploading them soon. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified whenever that's up. And if you enjoyed the reading, please do like and comment your thoughts if you have any. It will be really lovely to hear back from you, and it really helps the channel grow as well. I will see you some other time. Until then, take care. Bye.